We'll make a motion to recall that item from committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to recall the nominees for the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission from the Committee of the Whole in order for council to take up the appointments to this board at this time.
Okay, that's a motion for council to recall that and bring it on to the floor of our meeting at this time. All in favor of Mr. Ballard's motion, please say aye. Well, Mr. Tripp, you got a comment on
that? Yes. Why are we taking this out of order, Mr. Ballard? I mean, I don't know who this lady was that spoke to us, but now I've got the curiosity factor kicking in, and I was thinking that I wanted to look at some of the candidates that I supported in committee of the whole. So why are we rushing this through?
Well, I was asked.
I speak to that. It's really
go ahead.
A procedural matter. It was already voted on by ballot, and it avoided the necessity of having a CAL meeting tonight just for that one thing, when it would have been pretty much a formality to send it forward to this meeting, and we're effectively at the same place we are now. So the ballots have been tabulated, the results have been published, got them right here, and the next move we'd make, if you approve this, Mr. Meadows would have a motion on behalf, as a committee report from CAL, to approve the slate that council voted on. That's the procedure behind it, anyway. Mr. Deal.
I just wonder, would we have to go into executive session to answer the question that I'm burning to ask, and that is, what's the credibility to all this information that I've been sent? And then I heard the person speak at the beginning of the meeting about it. Can anybody answer that without us having to go into executive session? I'd like to know what's the credibility to it.
Okay, isn't that like any other speaker, Chairman, that we decide if we give credibility and that we will vote accordingly?
It's an individual matter to make up your own mind based on the information that you have seen and heard.
Okay, thank you.
Got a motion on the floor. What's the council's disposition on that? We'll go ahead and call for the vote. Got a motion to bring it on the floor, and then we'll have another motion after that. But first, we got to bring it on the floor, and that's the motion before us. All in favor of that motion, if you would raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And let's count how many opposed. I saw one hand opposed, so the ayes have it, and it's now brought onto the floor. And so I believe Mr. Meadows at this time will take over on behalf of the committee, and I believe you'll have a motion for us, Mr. Meadows.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the committee, I move to close nominations for the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission and to elect the following by acclamation: Jimmy Batson, Heather Curry, Corey Mitchell, Steve Sanderlin, Lauren Shala, and those are the five.
Lauren, she's
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. That motion and that ballot results is on the floor. All those in favor of approval?
Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Mr. Tripp.
I object to holding this vote by acclamation, and I would submit a counter motion to ask that we hold this to give us a chance to be able to read through the material and make up our own minds rather than have to make it up right on the spot.
Your motion is well taken. I'd have to ask our attorney for advice on the procedures here, since this is a result of a ballot previously submitted by each council member. And
good point.
Whether this is a way to overturn that, or we have to suspend the rules, or we're going to take a supermajority of votes, if that's what you want to do, those are some questions I have that I can't answer right now. So before we go any further, I'd like to pause and ask our attorney if he would like to help advise us on this.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I may ask the clerk to chime in at this process. I've not ever given thought to the idea of holding, you've had a ballot vote, you've had an election. I really can't speak to that as a procedural matter at this point. I guess it's a bit out of the blue. I don't know, Regina, do you have any thoughts about it? We've never had that motion at this stage in the election process. I'd have to research that and come back. It's never come up before.
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you in 30 years, we haven't had that come up. So with a ballot vote taken by council.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Mr. Roberts? I can't tell who's speaking.
I'm sorry, I just shifted positions.
That was Mr. Tripp.
Dan.
But Mr. Tripp was the one that asked to speak, but I would like to speak after him.
Okay, Mr. Tripp, back to you.
I was just going to say, first of all, I don't like to do anything by acclamation, generally speaking. So as a matter of procedure, I don't think we should have to vote on this by acclamation, number one. Number two, we did vote on this as a committee of the whole, but I would think the motion would be in order to hold it on the floor of council to give council members a chance to review it. Because, I mean, this is information that was not in my possession, or I hadn't seen it when some of these charges were made, and it may all be bunk. But I'd like to be able to review it prior to voting for some of these candidates that are caught up in this controversy. And I know their personality conflicts arise on commissions, and I guess what I'm trying to figure out is we reopened elections on this. Did those reopenings stem from this conflict on the commission?
No.
There's just a lot of questions that I would like to have answered before I cast my vote in favor of any candidates.
Well, I can offer this. I'd be happy to vote roll call, however you want to do it on Mr. Meadows' motion, taking out the phrase by acclamation, and that might give you a go on record with a true picture. I don't think that would be violating any rules. As far as your other question, I saw Mr. Tolleson shaking his head to your point about did this new information interfere with the election or something like that. I'm not sure how you phrase that, but maybe Mr. Tolleson will share that with us.
Well, Mr. Chairman, without belaboring it, I just happen to know the background of the reason why the nominations were opened up, and it nothing that I'm aware of in anything that was sent to county council or otherwise in this recent flurry of activity really had anything to do with that, based on my knowledge. But then again, I've just been dealing with it procedurally at this point. But I'd be happy to share that information with county council.
Mr. Dill.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Regina. I don't remember ever having anything like this to happen where we had a person on a board to come and speak and say I was ramrodded, did all this stuff that we've heard tonight and all the email that was received. And I really support what Mr. Tripp has said, that we stop right here and let's look at this thing before we go on. And we may say, okay, this doesn't require any time. It's baloney. We don't need to listen to it. But now, till that person spoke a while ago, I had treated that email a lot like it was just sour grapes. But after I heard that, I'm wondering just what's going on here.
Well, I'm just trying to think of some procedural way to offer that's within our rules and comports with our policy on boards and commissions. Like we heard the clerk say, in 30 years and others, this is the first I've seen this particular circumstance arise. Floor is open for any thoughts and suggestions. Mr. Thompson.
I'll offer this as, obviously you have a motion to close nominations, and that's certainly open to an objection to that, which would, I think, effectively freeze that process at the time. That might be more in order than a motion to hold. I'm not to say that if I was able to do more research, the hold might be in order, but at this point, looking at Masons, it seems that once the motion to close nominations is in order, it yields to privilege motions. I don't know where hold fits in that. I don't believe that it does based on Masons, but Mr. Tripp may be able to simply object to closing nominations at this time and have a vote on that.
I object, Mr. Chairman, to closing nominations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tolleson and Mr. Tripp. Then we have a procedural motion on the floor that would object to closing the nominations. We'll let Mr. Ballard speak to that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We reopened the nominations. They'd already been closed. We reopened them for 2 weeks. And that period is closed. So are the nominations not closed? That's a question for Counselor.
Regina, I think procedurally where we're at, this is now forwarded out of Cal. We've not actually ever had that motion to close nominations with this new group. Is that correct?
You have not had a motion to close nominations, no, but it was handled by ballot vote, which in every other case prior to this has been the final act from the committee of the whole.
Yeah.
So it's to be ratified on the council floor.
New territory, Mr. Chairman, be happy to research and come back, but we've not encountered this particular conflict relative to procedure on elections at this point. I apologize for lack of full knowledge. It would just be something that is not in my notes today.
Well, okay, here's what I'd like to ask council to do. We'll start with Mr. Ballard, and then any council member who has any thoughts about which way to go on this, I'd be happy to hear those thoughts after Mr. Ballard speaks.
All I was going to say, Mr. Chairman, is if we want to discuss this in any more detail, then I request that we go into executive session and discuss it. What does concern me if we delay this is we had 3 people roll off of that board as of the May meeting. And these appointments were the new people that would start on the board in June. So if we don't complete this action now, the board starts up 5 people short. And
How many members on that board altogether?
12,
9 or 12?
pardon me?
9 or 12 members?
No, 12. I'm 12,
So still have a quorum, enough for a quorum meeting.
assuming that everyone shows up, they would have a quorum.
Okay, other council members, help us out here, Ms. Seaman.
Would it be possible for Mr. Meadows just to withdraw his motion?
Yes, it is possible if that's what the council wants.
But I'm lost now. What was his motion?
His motion
Close.
close nominations and elect by acclamation. Mr. Tripp objects to the by acclamation,
Right.
which is what we're discussing. It's on the floor now. So I don't want to jump past Mr. Tripp. We've got to resolve that before we get take up any other ideas. I'm trying to formulate in my mind how to describe Mr. Tripp's objection in the form of a motion.
Well, can I comment, Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I don't see this much different than anything else we vote on per se. We have people all the time that speak to an issue that we have before us. And we either have to decide, in this case, they were kind of disparaging a councilman from what I could understand. And I guess we have to decide if we're gonna vote for or against something. I just don't see it much different than any other time we have someone speak up on this.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Chairman?
I would ask Mr. Meadows not to pull, and let's go ahead and vote on it.
Dr. Taylor, are you adjusting the TV or you want to talk? He's got his mute on. Okay, Dan, back to you. You got a motion in mind?
I'm not trying to, I just want more time. And I think that's only fair that as a duly elected member of this body, I have the right to ask for more time, and that's what I'm doing. You can vote me down. I'm just asking for more time, and I object to closing the nominations until I have that information.
Okay, we hear you on that. We're trying to follow.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, Mr. Tolson.
Mr. Meadows was speaking. I don't want to interrupt him.
Aren't we isn't this an unusual thing that we've done? That everything was closed and then it was reopened for the purpose of trying to get Lance Corll on the board? Wasn't that behind all this? And really, shouldn't we have waited until shouldn't these people have come up in the next cycle rather than now at a special time?
Mr. Tolson.
Just to clarify where we may be procedurally at this point, Mr. Tripp has objected to the closing the nominations, and I think as part of that, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Tripp, but maybe that in the process of objecting, he's actually making a motion to keep the nominations open for a period of time. Mr. Tripp, would 2 weeks? It's your motion, but you don't want them to close. You want them to remain open.
Correct. I just want them to remain open till our next meeting so that I can have a chance to read the background material and make an informed decision.
Mr. Chairman, that motion would appear to be in order, and that's probably a good clarification of where we're at procedurally.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Tripp, we'll take that as a motion to keep these appointments open until our next council meeting. Give us time to review the process and the applicants. Is that paraphrase what you got in mind there?
Sure. Yes, sir.
That's now what's on the floor, procedural motion. All those in favor of the motion by Mr. Tripp, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I heard 2 noes and the rest ayes, so the motion of Ms. Tripp is approved, and we'll hold this on the floor open until our next regular council meeting. Thank you very much for everybody for helping work through that thorny issue there, and I hope we get it resolved. I'm sure we will, given a little more time. All right, now, let's see, requested motions by council members. We'll start with Mr. Ballard. No, I think we've already had that one. We certainly had that one. So let's throw the floor open for requested motions and announcements tonight. Whatever you have, we look forward to hearing from anyone who wants to speak at this time, any and all. We can go down the list, call everybody's name, or we can start with whoever wants to talk first.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest we just go down the road like we normally do, because it kind of gets out of hand when you don't.
Okay, we'll start with you, Mr. Fant, Dr. Fant.
Don't laugh, Rick. Guess what? I have nothing.
What?
No.
What day is this?
Yes. God bless.
Dr. Fant, is that it for you?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Roberts.
Sorry, I didn't know I was next on the list. I really don't have anything
I'm
prepared.
going by the names on the screen.
Okay. No, that's okay. I don't really have a lot to say. I think our community right now should be in all of our prayers, and hope that we can continue to move forward. And no, I think it's a tough time with a lot of different issues going on right now between the virus, and I hope we continue to be good leaders and role models in that way. But appreciate the meeting. That's all I got.
Let me stick something in here myself. Good news, this afternoon, we heard that Greenville County was approved for a Mobility for All pilot program federal grant in the amount of $326,000. And the purpose is the Federal Transit Administration Mobility for All pilot program seeks to improve mobility options through employing innovative coordination of transportation strategies and building partnerships to enhance mobility and access to vital community services for older adults, individuals with disabilities, and people of low income. So I'm sure we can put that grant to good use. It's coming through GPATS, and we look forward to looking at how it's going to be used to benefit our community. Let's see, Dr. Taylor, would you like to speak?
I would just like for you to call me after this meeting regarding the meeting we have tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
If you'll get on the phone right away, we'll just take a minute.
Telephone, yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
You're on mute.
I think you said, Ms. Norris. Ms. Norris, unmute. We'll come back to Ms. Norris. I'm sorry. Dr. Cates?
Yes, sir. My youngest daughter, April, in Arizona, celebrating her anniversary today. So a big day for her.
Congratulations on that. Ms. Seaman?
The anniversary of what?
Oh, I'm sorry. The marriage.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I go last this evening, please?
Okay. Mr. Meadows?
It's my wife's birthday.
No, sir. Nothing.
None for Mr. Meadows. Mr. Tripp?
I think I've said my piece tonight, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ballard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that we all received a packet of probably 100 pages or more that you now have plenty of time to wade through. You all had it on Friday. County voted to do what they voted to do. And we'll hold this vote. The commission will go on assuming that everyone shows up for the meeting. If they don't, they can't have a meeting because they won't have a quorum in their June meeting. That being said, I want to say thank you to both Sheriff Lewis and Chief Thompson for the outstanding job that they did this weekend in handling the various protests that occurred. And I want to compliment all the people in Greenville County for showing the rest of the state and the rest of the country that we can have protests here with large numbers of people, and we don't have to burn down the town and vandalize and do all that sorts of thing. And so we really appreciate the fact that the people of Greenville County understand we have differences, but we can all express our opinions and not have to riot and tear things up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dill. Joe Dill?
Yes, I was just relieved that I wasn't under the gun. Listen, I've really enjoyed this meeting. We've got a lot done, and I just look forward to the day that we all come back in the big room and I can look you in the eye and we can shake hands and hug necks and kiss babies and do all that good stuff again.
Thank you, Joe. Excuse me for Winston. I just had a cramp in my leg. I was trying to straighten out.
Well, I thought you was just going to get up and run.
All right, we want to go back to Ms. Norris. If she will unmute herself, we want to hear her voice. Ms. Norris, unmute.
She's muted.
You gotta unmute. See if we can do that from here. Nope, can't do that from here. Can our host tech support unmute Ms. Norris, please?
Where is she?
Unmute.
Right there. Whatever it is, it's good.
Now, she's animated anyway.
I like the hand motions.
Thank you, Ms. Norris. Thank you. All right, we'll go to Ms. Seaman, who is going to have the last word in tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things. I wanted to let you know that SCTAC has been awarded a $135,000 grant from the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission, which will fund the relocation of the automated weather observing station at Donaldson Field. This much-needed project will open up additional acreage for development in the corporate hangar section of Donaldson Field. I'd also like to voice my support. I think everyone's hopefully saw the message from the Chamber, United Way, and the Urban League today, calling for a countywide commission to help with the healing of our community, and would request, Mr. Chairman, that either you or maybe Mr. Cannell, on behalf of the county, reach out maybe to Carlos and others to offer our support and leadership in that effort. You know, Mr. Ballard, appreciate what you said too about Sheriff Lewis and the interim police chief. And, you know, we want to continue to be leading in this space and lending our voice to those who are helping move everybody forward on that.
Absolutely.
I also, Mr. Cannell, thank you for the update on our county building, and would like to request that maybe sometime prior to the next council meeting that we have a special meeting with our ROCA partners, and potentially also with our new partner who's helping with the new county building, just to get an update. And partly also, I'm curious, I'm hopeful that they're still optimistic about being able to have that project come to fruition as initially envisioned. But if we have to make any pivots in light of what's happened economically from the virus, it would be great to know that sooner rather than later. So if that would be possible, I appreciate that.
May I add to that there's a meeting of the University Ridge Public Facilities Corporation noted for Wednesday, the 17th at 11 a.m.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And my final thing tonight, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask everyone to extend birthday greetings. We have two council members that are going to have birthdays coming up. Councilman Ballard celebrates his birthday on June 4th, and Dr. Fant celebrates his birthday on June 11th. And lucky for the both of you, I don't think we're going to sing over Zoom, but I hope you will all join me in wishing them continued health and happiness.
Happy birthday.
And my wife's birthday is on election night.
Ms. Norris, can you hear me?
Yes.
What words do you have for us? You got the last word now as it turned out.
No justice, no peace. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. And don't forget the birthdays for Dr. Fant and Mr. Ballard. Thank you, Ms. Seaman.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank everyone. I appreciate the good meeting we had. We'll be seeing you soon.
Carries.